Hello everyone and welcome to this video, and in this video we are going to discuss about what are Python lists and different use cases for Python lists. So here we can look at different use cases like creating a list, accessing elements in the list, modifying elements, adding elements, removing, slicing lists, concatenating lists, finding length, and list comprehension functions, sorting and reversing, and nested lists. So these are some examples which we're going to cover in the video. So first we're going to see how to create a list. So it's just simple, just give the list name and brackets. So this represents a list in Python, and what are the list items, which are numbers 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. And there can also be an empty list. Empty list is simple, which is having nothing. This is a list of numbers. There can also be list of fruits as well. You can say apple, banana and cherry. And there can also be a mixed list. What is a mixed list? It can be having a number, a string and a float maybe, and a matrix as well. It can be a matrix. This is a nested list, a list containing multiple other lists inside. So this can be 1 2 and 3 4 5 and 6. So these are some of the lists which we can create. So this is how you create. You can create an empty list, list of numbers, list of strings, a mixed list, and a matrix. This is also called as nested list. So next we'll be looking at how we access elements in this from this list. So I'll go down here. So the indexing always starts from 0 in a list, and it will be end of the list will be n based on the number of elements in the list. So what if you want to print access first element in a list? It's as simple as just give the list name and the index number. If numbers of 0 represents number 1, so if I print this, you can see it prints number 1. In the same way, I can also access the first element in the fruits, which is banana. So it's not the first element, it's the second element. So first element starts with a 0 as index. You can see if I do 0, it accesses apple. You can do the same with the mixed list and matrix as well, but in the matrix you need to try to access in two-dimensional way, which is if I the first represents the row and the second matrix index represents column. So I want to access the first row, and what is the column you want to access? I want to access first number, so it will be the first column, which is 0 again. So 0 of 0 is 1. So this is how you access elements from different kinds of lists. And how do you modify? Now we'll look at how we modify list. So delete this. How you modify list. So I'll give a dummy list which is 1 2 3 4 and 5. And what if I want to change number 1 to 7? I can simply do it by first access it using 0 and assign it to the number you want it to be. Now if you print numbers, you can see I have successfully replaced number 1 with 7 by modifying an element using index. You can also do the same with every other element as well. You can do a lot of other functionalities as well. I'll just remove this one. So this is a list, and if you see, if I do dot, you can see a lot of functionalities, inbuilt functionalities which are offered by Python. So first I'll try to use append. If I want to know what parameters I need to give, I'll just do a comma here, and you can see it is asking for an integer to give. So I'll delete that. I want to add number 10 to that list. So this is just appending. It will add a number to the end of the list. If I run this, you can see 10 is added as well. So now there is also an insert functionality. Insert, if I do a comma, it's asking me for giving an index and an integer. So at what index I want to insert? I want to insert a number at the starting of the list. So it will be the index 0, and what will be the number? The number will be 10. You can see the 10 is inserted at the starting of the list. So you can also extend. So I'll show you extend. What is this extend? It's an iterable integer, so it can be an iterable object like a list. So it takes, what this function does is it takes an iterable list and appends it to the end of the list. So let's say what it does here. So see, there is also a list 1 2 3 4 5, and which is appended, and 10 11 12 is appended to this list. So append elements, so extend appends elements from an iterable to the end of the list. That's what it does, the extend function. So we can also do remove elements. So how do we do that? Remove, and want to see what value I need to give. It's integer, so I can simply give an integer value. If I say 2, let's see what is the output. It removed, this function successfully removed number 2 from this particular list. So now the output only shows 1 3 4 and 5. There is also a function where you can pop. How do you pop? So the pop, what does it take? It takes an index. So I want to pop the first element in the list. So if I give it as 0, it will pop the first element. You can also do a clear. What is a clear? If I do this, it takes nothing. What does clear do? So clear removes all the elements from the list. So if I run this, you'll see the output as an empty list because clear removed all the elements. So this is one example of removing elements, and now we can look at slicing lists. So before showing how I do the slicing of lists, I'll just clear this now. Clear this one. Slicing list. So slicing allows us to extract a portion of a list. First, suppose if I want to only get a subset of numbers from this particular list, like 1 2 3, you can use the slicing. How do slicing works? You can simply do 0 to 3, which means, so the indexing always starts from 0. I'll show you the example here. So it starts from 0 1 2 3 4. So 0 element represents 1 and 1 element. So to avoid confusion, I'll just create a list of letters here. C, D, E, and 0 represents A, 1, B, 2, C, 3, D, and 4, E. It can also be in the reverse order. So -1 represents E, it comes from ending. -2 represents D, -3 represents C, -4 represents B, and -5 represents A. So you should remember this. So indexing, positive indexing starts from the starting, and then if you come with the negative one starts from the ending. So let's say you want to slice start from the starting to 3, so it's 0 to 3. So this upper range is ignored, which means it only goes from 0 to 2, which is 3 elements A, B, C. remove these letters, copy this, paste here, numbers, letters, and letters. Let's see what it prints. It prints, there's something happened here, and this is an important concept for you to understand. You know why it returned A, B, C, D, E? Because this functionality doesn't actually change this original list. It just uh, gets a subset and just be there. And if I want to print it, I need to store it in another variable and print that variable. And now you can see it only prints ABC. So the slicing itself doesn't modify the original list. We need to give it to another variable and get the output. So this is slicing from 0 to 3, and by default, so if you do this one, by default it's 1 is a step functions is, it's kind of an iterable count. So if you do 1 here, it just shifts from A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E. This is 1. And if you want to do step as 2, now you will see it only prints A to C, right? It takes 2 steps. It ignores the alternate values. So 1 is the beside step, but 2 is an alternative step. And if you do C 3, you can see it only prints A, right? Okay. Right, if I give 1, and you will see it gives everything, because 1 step is by default. If you want to print alternative, you can do this A, C, E. That's a step. So what if you want to reverse a list using slicing? You can do it -1 here, and if you print it, it will automatically iterates through the list from the end and stores it into a subset, right? So negative indexing and steps provide flexibility in defining slices. So these are the few examples of slices, and you can play around with other examples as well. So there is also an example for concatenating lists. So I'll just remove this. I'll create another list with number letters as F, G, and H. These are letters 1. I can just append letters with letters 1, and I can store that in combined letters and print the combined letters here. Now you can see I have successfully concatenated letters. So what happened here is it appended letters with letters itself, because I used letters instead of letters 1. So here I use letters 1, and it concatenates like this. So we need to use plus operator to concatenate 2 lists. So concatenate combined list combines the letters and letters 1. So we can also use length function, which is inbuilt. So if I do this one, it will print the length of the combined letters, which is 8, right? So now I'll just remove this. Now we are going to discuss about list comprehensions. So list comprehensions provide a concise way to create lists. So first, suppose, let's say there is a list with numbers such as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I have a use case where I need to square the numbers in the list. What usually we do, we just iterate through the list, and for each number we'll just do square of list and then print and then store it in another list, such as squared list. It's an empty list. I can just do this and store it in the append it in the squared list. So I don't want to do this. With using list comprehensions, we can easily do it in a single line. Let's say let's reuse this one. How do I do that? In a list, I want to square a number for what? For each element in the numbers. That's it. So if I print square list now, you can see square list. If I run this, you can see the list, the numbers in the list are squared now. It's easy, right? So we can also do even numbers as well. Even numbers. I want to find an even number. How do I do that? I want to store the element in the list as x for every x in numbers, and if x is divisible by 2, that is an even number. And now if I print even numbers, you can see it only prints 2 and 4 because those two are the even numbers in the list. It's very easy to use the list comprehensions and very useful as well. We can also use sorting and list reversing of numbers. Suppose if I want to reverse or sort, so even if I use sort, it's no use because it's already sorted. But if it's not sorted, it will sort it. We want to reverse now. Reverse the numbers. Save, run. Now you can see the numbers are reversed. You can also use slicing for reversing, but this is an inbuilt function which you can leverage for the lists. So after this, now we want to discuss about nested lists. So what are the nested lists? So nested lists are lists which contain other lists, creating a nested structure. For suppose if I want to create a matrix, how do I do that? I'll first create a list, and inside list I'll have two more lists or three rows. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. So this is a matrix with 3 columns. Do an enter here, you will understand it properly. So this is a matrix. What if I want to access this element? Same as accessing a list, right? So the indexing starts from 0 and the column number also starts from 0, but what element I want to access here? With this element, and this indexing is 1, so I want to access first row, second row. 1 is second, right? Indexing starts from 0 and 1 is second row, and second element, which is 1 again. So this should give 5, right? So this is how you access element in a nested list. We can also have nested lists with different data types as well. For suppose if you want to store student information in a university, you have to create a list, and inside list there will be multiple other lists for each student information. For suppose there is student Alice with age 21 and grade A. Now there is a Bob who is having age 20 and grade as B. So this can be another use case where you want to store a student information where you have different data types in a nested list. We can also have irregular nested types, irregular matrix, which is 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. As you can see here, this is an irregular matrix which demonstrates each inner list in a nested list can have a different length, right? Here there are two numbers, here 1 and there are 3 here. And you can do the manipulations and comprehensions as in the same single dimensional list. So this is a multiple dimensional list, nested list. And yeah, in this video we have seen different examples, right? So if you have any doubts, just comment below and I'll try to answer. Thank you.